It is a Friday morning, your paycheck hits. You open the app on your phone, you scroll straight to the bottom, and you look at the one number that actually lands in your account. That is the number you care about. That is the only number you have ever cared about. But somewhere further up that stub, in a column you have never once read, there is a line that says employer contribution, and next to it there is a dollar amount. Maybe it says $38, maybe it says $75, maybe it says nothing at all, and here is the strange part. You have been getting that same stub for years, and right now, without looking, you could not tell me which one it says. That line is probably the most valuable number on the entire page, and 46% of American workers are quietly getting less of it than they are allowed to get. Almost half. Not because they are bad with money, not because they are lazy, because of a setting, a single number in a box on a website they logged into once on their first week at the job, while somebody from Human Resources stood behind them talking about parking passes. Welcome back to Affluence Theory. I spend way too much time thinking about money, and specifically about the gap between what people believe is holding them back and what is actually holding them back, and this one is the biggest gap I have found, because most personal finance advice tells you to hunt for returns. Pick the right fund, time the market, cut the coffee, and the whole time, sitting in the benefits portal at your job, there is a return that beats every single one of those things, guaranteed, before a single dollar of it ever touches the stock market. If this is useful to you, go ahead and subscribe and hit the like button. It genuinely helps the channel more than you would think. Now here is the open loop I want you to hang on to. By the end of this video, I am going to give you a checklist that takes about 11 minutes and one login. It is the single highest paying 11 minutes in personal finance. But there is an order to it, and if you do those steps in the wrong order, you can walk yourself straight into a mistake that costs thousands of dollars and feels like responsible behavior while you are doing it. So stay with me. Let us start with the reframe, because everything else falls out of this. You have been taught to think of the employer match as a perk, a little extra, a nice thing your company does, like the snacks in the break room or the half day before a holiday. That framing is completely wrong, and it is expensive. The match is not a gift, it is part of your compensation. When your company decided what you were worth, they did not think of your salary and then remember the match as an afterthought. The match was in the number, it was budgeted. It was written into the offer. The only difference between your salary and your match is that your salary shows up whether you do anything or not, and your match only shows up if you claim it. It is pay with a claim form attached, so when you leave it uncollected, you are not declining a bonus. You are working at a lower salary than the one you agreed to, and telling yourself you are being careful. I have talked before about the boulder and the hill, pushing that weight uphill, feeling it roll back on you, wondering why everyone else seems to have momentum. Here is the version that fits this one. Imagine there is a second person on that hill with you. They were hired to push. They are standing right there, hands on the rock, waiting. But they have exactly one rule. They only push as hard as you push. If you push with one hand, they push with one hand. If you push with everything you have got, they match you up to a limit and then they stomp. Most people never turn around. They never see the second pair of hands. They spend a decade shoving that boulder alone, wondering why the hill is so steep, while someone stands beside them ready to take half the weight. That is the match. And the reason people miss it is almost never greed or laziness. It is psychology, so let us go there. The first reason is the default. When you were hired, somebody set your contribution rate for you. Under the rules that took effect in 2025, new workplace plans generally have to enroll you automatically, and the floor they are allowed to start you at is 3% of your pay, escalating by at least 1% a year. Now 3% is a fine place to start. But it was never meant to be a destination. It is a floor, and the human brain does something very specific with a number that somebody else picked for us. We treat it as a recommendation. We assume that whoever chose it knew what they were doing and had our interests in mind. So 3% stops feeling like a starting line and starts feeling like the responsible answer. That is anchoring, and it is quietly one of the most expensive habits in American finance. The second reason is that the money is invisible. You never see it. It does not hit your checking account. It does not show up as a deposit. It does not create a moment where you feel richer. Money you never see is money you never mourn. If your boss walked over to your desk on Friday and handed you $38 in cash and you refused it, you would feel that. You would feel it in your stomach. Because it happens on a line item you do not read, it costs you nothing emotionally, and things that cost nothing emotionally are the things we let slide for a decade. The third reason is the most human one. You think you cannot afford it. Rent went up. Groceries went up. The idea of pulling another $75 out of a paycheck that is already thin sounds not just hard, but irresponsible. And I want to be careful here, because for some people that is genuinely true, and I am not going to pretend otherwise. But for a lot of people, it is not a math problem, it is a fear problem, because the amount you are protecting is smaller than the amount you are giving up, and nobody ever showed you the two numbers side by side. So let me show you the two numbers side by side. The typical full-time worker in this country earns about $1,251 a week, which comes out to right around $65,000 a year. Let us use that. And let us use the single most common match formula in America, which is 50% on the first 6%. That phrase confuses everybody, so here is what it actually means in plain English. If you put in 6% of your pay, your employer puts in half of that, which is 3%. 6 from you, 3 from them. 9% total going into your future, and you paid for 2/3 of it. On $65,000, 6% is about $150 a paycheck if you get paid every 2 weeks. Your employer then adds $75 a paycheck. That is $1,952 a year of money that did not come out of your pocket. Now here's what actually happens to most people. You got auto-enrolled at 3%. So you are putting in $75 a paycheck and your employer is matching $38 a paycheck. You are getting half the match you were offered. The gap is $976 a year, every single year, sitting there, and the fix costs $75 a paycheck. Read that again, because it is the whole video. You put in $75 more and you get $38 more handed to you on top of it. That is a 50% return, immediately, before that money is invested in anything at all. There is no fund on earth that does that. There is no stock that does that. The market has never handed anyone a guaranteed 50% for filling in a box. And $976 a year does not sound like a lot until you let it run. Assume a 7% average annual return, which is a normal long-term planning assumption and not a promise. Skipping that $976 for 30 years leaves you with about $92,000 less at the end. Same job, same salary, same everything, just a different number in a box. Flip it around and it gets better. If you capture the full match on that same salary for a 40-year working life, the employer money alone grows to somewhere around $389,000. That is not your contribution. That is not your discipline. That is the second pair of hands on the boulder, compounding for 4 decades. And the average matching contribution across large plans hit 4.7% of pay recently, which on a $65,000 salary is roughly $3,000 a year that some people are collecting and some people are not. And before anyone says this is only a problem for people who are careless with money, look at who actually has the door open to them. About 70% of private industry workers have access to a plan like this at work. Among the lowest paid quarter of workers, it is 49%. So a lot of people are not skipping the match. They were never handed one. If you are in the 70%, that is not a moral achievement, but it is an opportunity, and opportunities that go unused are just expensive scenery. One more piece of context, because people get this backwards. In 2026, you are allowed to put $24,000 a year of your own money into a 401k. 6% of a $65,000 salary is nowhere near that. The match cap is not the ceiling on what you can save. It is the floor of what you should. It is the point where you stop leaving free money behind and start doing the ordinary slow work of investing. Okay, warnings. These are the 5 ways I watch people lose this money, and some of them look responsible on the way down. Mistake 1 is the one we just covered. Staying at whatever number the enrollment screen picked for you. Go and look at it today, not this weekend, today. Roughly 2/3 of plans now start people at 4% or higher, and about 1/3 start at 6%, which is genuinely good news. But you cannot assume yours is one of them, and the only way to know is to look. Mistake 2 is front-loading. Some people, especially people who get a bonus, try to dump a huge chunk into the plan early in the year and finish their contributions by summer. It feels aggressive and smart. But a lot of plans calculate the match per paycheck, not per year. So if you hit the annual limit in July, the paychecks from August to December have no contribution in them, which means they get no match. Some plans have a true up that fixes this at year end, many do not. Check before you front load. Mistake 3 is not knowing your vesting schedule. Vesting is the waiting period before the employer money is actually yours. Roughly 49% of plans hand it over immediately, which is great, but others make you wait. A 5-year graded schedule shows up in about 16% of plans, and a 3-year cliff shows up in about 9%. Cliff is the brutal one because it is all or nothing. 2 years and 11 months at that company and you walk away with 0 of it. And here's the stat that should make you open a browser tab. When researchers asked participants whether their own plan had a vesting schedule, only about 33% could answer correctly. 2/3 of people do not know the rules on their own money. Now put that next to how long people actually stay in jobs. The median worker has been with their employer 3.9 years, and for workers between 25 and 34, it is 2.7 years. On a $65,000 salary with a full match, 2.7 years of employer money is about $5,300. Leave 1 month before a 3-year cliff, and that money goes back to the plan. And $5,300 left alone for another 30 years would have been about $40,000. That is not a small administrative detail. In one large study of job separations, forfeitures happened in around 30% of them. Mistake 4 is quitting your match when you quit your job. You start somewhere new, the first month is chaos, and enrolling in the new plan slides down the list. 3 months go by. That is 3 months of match, gone, and it never comes back. Day 1, at a new job, before the laptop and before the parking pass, set the contribution. Mistake 5 is the responsible looking one, pausing your contributions to attack debt or build savings. I understand the instinct completely, and if you are drowning in high-interest credit card debt, there is a real argument for it. But be honest about the trade. If you pause a 50% match to pay down a loan charging you 7%, you did not get ahead. You gave up a guaranteed 50% to save 7. That is not discipline. That is a bad trade wearing discipline as a costume. So here is your 11 minutes, in order. 1. Log into your benefits portal and find the exact match formula, not what your coworker thinks it is, the actual sentence. 2. Set your contribution rate to at least the match cap in that sentence. 3. Find your vesting schedule and write the date you become fully vested somewhere you will actually see it. 4. Turn on automatic escalation so your rate climbs 1% a year without you thinking about it. 5. If a job change is coming, enroll on day 1 at the next place. That is it. That is the whole thing. And look, I know it is not exciting. Nobody is making a documentary about a person who changed a number from 3 to 6. But that is what wealth building actually looks like for regular people. It is not a windfall. It is a series of small, boring, irreversible decisions that compound while you go on living your life. Here is what I want you to take from this. You are not behind because you are bad at money. You are behind because the systems around you have defaults, and defaults are set by people who are not you, for reasons that are not yours. Every single one of them can be changed. And the moment you start reading the lines on the page instead of scrolling past them, something shifts. You stop being someone that money happens to. You start being someone who decides. So next Friday, when that paycheck hits, do not scroll straight to the bottom. Scroll up, find the line that says employer contribution, read the number next to it, and then go make it bigger.